In this figure, we're going to look at our systemic and pulmonary circuits of the cardiovascular system. And you'll note we have a centrally located heart here. And our heart is a dual pump. It has both left and right sides that are going to act as pumps to pressurize the blood moving into these two separate circuits, the systemic on our left here and the pulmonary circuit on our right. Now, we have to pick a spot to start here, and let's pick number one. We're going to start on the right side of our heart, and blood returning from the body, from the systemic tissues, non-lung tissues, is going to return to the right side of the heart, and it's going to enter the right atrium. The right atrium and the atria in general are performance enhancers for the ventricles. They help fill the ventricles, and then the ventricles actually pressurize the blood to move blood flow into each circuit. Pressure drives flow, as described by Poiseuille's law. And so our right ventricle will then contract, generate increased pressure, and drive that blood flow into the pulmonary arteries. Now, arteries in general are vessels which carry blood flow away from the heart. And this arterial blood is high in CO2 and low in oxygen. Recall, this blood has just been to the systemic tissues, right? Our bones, our muscles, our brain, our GI organs, and a whole variety of others, right? Where oxygen was delivered and carbon dioxide was picked up. And so we want to send that blood off into the pulmonary circuit now, where it can become reoxygenated at the alveolar surfaces of our lungs. And so we have our blood coming in, it's sort of a bluish color. It's probably a little bit more like maroon than blue. We exaggerate that a bit in these diagrams. But that blood is coming here to gain oxygen and lose carbon dioxide by diffusion. And that reoxygenated, now bright red blood will leave those capillaries and enter the pulmonary veins. Veins are described as the vessels that carry blood flow back to the heart. Right? So we now have high O2 and low CO2 in this blood. We're ready to send it back to the body. And so it's going to come into the left side of the heart. Right? The left side of the heart is the pump that generates pressure to drive flow through the systemic circuit. The left atrium will help fill the left ventricle. The left ventricle will contract moments later. And note, the left and right sides are acting in synchrony. They are attached to each other, but their blood flows are separate. And so our left and right sides are contracting simultaneously, driving blood flow through these two circuits. And so our left ventricle is contracting. It drives blood flow into the aorta, the first systemic artery. It's going to be that high O2 and low CO2 blood going to our systemic tissues at a whole variety of locations. Now, of course, our gases are diffusing in the opposite direction. Oxygen is diffusing out of the bloodstream, making it more maroon colored, to the cells that are utilizing that oxygen for aerobic respiration. Carbon dioxide being produced by the cells is in higher concentration in the interstitial space and is diffusing into the blood. That blood leaves the capillaries and enters the systemic veins described as vessels carrying blood back to the heart. The high CO2, low O2 blood now needs to go back to this pulmonary circuit, right? And so it comes back into the right side of the heart, repressurize, and out into the pulmonary circuit we go. Now, it's important to note that blood is not just carrying oxygen and carbon dioxide. It's also carrying substances between other tissues besides just the lungs. That would include nutrients. It would include waste products to be excreted at the kidneys or processed at the liver. It includes cell-cell signaling molecules, the hormones that are helping communicate between different tissues. The blood carries immune cells that then migrate out of the capillaries to help fight infections in the interstitium of particular tissues. And then finally, the systemic tissues, through dissipation of energy, generate heat. And that heat needs to be dissipated to the body surfaces. And so we're going to carry that heat away in this blood. It's going to eventually end up at the surface of the skin, where it can be dissipated to the environment, or even at the lung surface to dissipate that heat there as well. And so it's important to keep in mind, our two circuits are interconnected. They feed one another, and so the output of the two sides has to be equal over time. And then again, we're moving more than just oxygen and carbon dioxide. There's a whole variety of substances that need to move between tissues for the proper functioning and homeostasis of our bodies.